I want to start by especially thanking our sponsors. This is by far the biggest user conference that we've ever had. We've also extended it from 2 to 3 days. In the past, it was shorter. So frankly, it's a lot more expensive to put on. For the first time, we made a call out for help to put on this event and to allow everyone that was interested to come join us. And we're very thankful for the organizations that answered that call. In particular, SMART and the North Carolina Zoo, and Wildlife Protection Solutions, the San Diego Zoo Wildlife Alliance, and Save Animals Facing Extinction. We also really want to acknowledge and appreciate the members of the vendor marketplace that also donated to the conference, and also organizations that directly sponsored attendees to come and join us today. The 100% of all of the sponsorship money that we raised went towards bringing additional people here. And so the size of this audience and the opportunities that affords all of us is really thanks to all of their generosity. So thank you very much. So what have you gotten yourself into? So the EarthRanger User Conference is, I'm sure every conference says this, but we really believe that it's different than just about every other conference that's out there. We're not announcing any major new products here. We are not making any press releases. In fact, the whole conference isn't really even about EarthRanger. First and foremost, the conference is about bringing together conservation practitioners, yourselves, so that you all can learn from one another and learn what's working for you, what's not working, and really find new ideas of how to better protect animals and their habitats. That's our main priority. So to that end, you might note that we don't have the same level of production as some other conferences. We're also a lot more informal. So that the picture here is from the second annual user conference in Lewa. At least half of the people in that photo are in the room here today, so hi all of you. And we're still trying to keep that vibe. We want this to be about people connecting with one another, learning from one another. And so really, this is a conference that's put on by the conservation practitioner community for the conservation practitioner community. And to that end, there's actually over 60 sessions that will be presented over the next few days with over 100 speakers. The EarthRanger piece of this is a little bit smaller, but we also really appreciate the opportunity to learn from all of you, and that's one of the main things that we're looking for out of this. In general, it's also an opportunity for you to be exposed to new ideas and new things beyond EarthRanger. And so that said, I will take a minute and just mention the EarthRanger specific sessions. So of all of the 60 sessions, this is actually all of them. We hope that many of you, anyone interested, will attend one or more of these. There are multiple offerings of some of those, just so if there's a conflict with other sessions that you want to attend, you're still able to get a second shot at it. We also have one-on-one sessions available, and those will be run by our support team, as well as a couple of sessions that are about providing additional input for us and doing user testing on some of the new features that we have coming out next year. So all of these are in the app, which I'll give you a link to, but this is also the QR code where you can go to register for those one-on-one sessions. So I'll leave that up for a second while I tap dance. But on the note of this conference being about the opportunity for all of you to learn about many things beyond EarthRanger, this is also the first year that we've done the user conference in partnership with SMART, which we're really proud of our partnership with the SMART partnership. And SMART has supported about 50 of you to attend today, which we really appreciate. We think of SMART as kind of our twins. We have a shared mission, we have a shared vision, we have complementary products, we have shared ideals, and so we're very excited to offer the combination of products and services between the two programs to really further conservation wherever we can. So thanks to the SMART partnership for joining us also. In particular, here from the Smart leadership, quite a few folks. I strongly suggest that everyone try to meet any and all of these. That they're amazing people that have really done a lot, both in conservation technology and conservation in general. So Smart has also a number of Smart-specific sessions, so be sure to check those out as well. Those are also in the mobile app, so look for those. And then shifting a little bit, so outside of EarthRanger and Smart, who all is here? We have a total of 484 people who registered. Some haven't shown. Additionals are trickling in as day passes, so it's somewhere around that number of people. That's about a 36% growth from last year's user conference, which is really astounding. You all are from 44 countries on 6 continents. So it's just incredible variety of people that are represented in the room today. And we're also excited that for the first time, a significant percentage of those joining us aren't from Africa. In fact, about a quarter of the folks here aren't from Africa. In the past, EarthRanger, through momentum and through the folks that we're working with, has really been focused on an African audience. We are working hard to expand that to help out wherever we can. And we're really thrilled that the presence at the user conference reflects some of the results of those efforts. I don't know if you can see the lines on here, but we do want to make special mention for a couple of folks who traveled particularly far to get here. So Tiffany, our user experience designer, she'll be receiving 24,000 sky miles for each direction to get here today. She comes from Hawaii. And also Wes and Alina, so over there, from Contact Africa and Akoa, I'm going to get it someday, Wes. Maliesi. Thank you. I actually drove here from Arusha. So we tracked them on EarthRanger, set up some geofences to warn them of danger. So they drove 8,000 kilometers to get here, so really appreciate that as well. Among all of you, about 57% of you are EarthRanger users. About 12% are technical partners, so these are folks who are making conservation technology for this community. 8% are people who help deploy technologies like Smart and EarthRanger. 7% are Smart, not EarthRanger users, and then 6% of the audience is our EarthRanger team. So we have a great variety of people here for you to learn from, so please do seek all of them out. In particular, out of the 38 members of the EarthRanger team, we actually brought 25 of them. So please do talk to them, tell them about the problems that you face, not just with EarthRanger, not just with technology, but the better that we understand the issues that you have, the better that we can help. So we're here to really understand those. You can identify us. Today, everyone's wearing a gray shirt. I wore a green shirt. I'm gonna claim it's not because I can't follow directions, but because I'm really excited to wear Springbrook green. We also have 2 special members of the audience somewhere. So Ted Schmidt was one of the founders of EarthRanger and is now the director of our Skylight program. And Bill Hilf is the CEO of Vulcan, where EarthRanger was born, and also the chair of AI2's board. So please do seek out both of them. Tell them how much EarthRanger has meant to you. I'm sure they'd really appreciate it. Tell them if you have problems too. I'm sure they'd be happy to hear that. But it's a great opportunity for them, who have really supported the program for now 8+ years, to hear the impact of all of those efforts. I want to recognize WCS. There are actually 25 folks from WCS in the room today, and we're really excited about our growing partnership with WCS. So welcome to all of you. I'd love to get a chance to meet all of you if I can, so please do seek me out. We have a vendor marketplace every day from 7:30 to 6:30 in the atrium, I think upstairs in the other building. Please do check that out. Visit all these folks, learn about what they're doing. They're all creating different technologies and services that can really provide a lot of value to a lot of your efforts. So thank you to them for being here with us today, and please do learn more about them. We also have a showcase over the course of 3 sessions where we've broken each of those into 5 or 6 presentations from different vendors so that you can get an introduction to what they're doing and learn more about that, and also figure out who you want to go visit and talk to further. One of the major initiatives that EarthRanger has been undertaking over the past couple years in partnership with the Mara Elephant Project, WCS, and WPS is something that we're calling the Internet of Conservation. I wanted to introduce this idea because you'll be hearing about it in different sessions throughout the conference. It's a mental shift in the way that we go about building products. So instead of working on software and new improvements and features that advance our own technology, we've all come together and agreed to work on things that collectively advances everyone's technology. Gundi was the first example of this. We have a session specifically about Gundi, where Gundi is now being used as a common data integration platform to move data between over 100 different sensors and send those to EarthRanger, Smart, WPS Watch, MoveBank, and soon many others. So anytime that we at EarthRanger or anyone else makes a new integration, it provides that capability to everyone. This is something that we're going to continue to lean heavily into, and we'll be talking about the Internet of Conservation concept and program Saturday, just day after tomorrow, at 1 o'clock. So please do learn more about that. In particular, one of the newest member of the Internet of Conservation suite is Ecoscope, which is an open source framework that was started by the Mara Elephant Project, which EarthRanger is now taking on as providing the reporting and analytics capabilities for EarthRanger. Over the course of the next year or so, we'll be transitioning from being not dependent on, but leveraging the capabilities of Tableau into this new suite. And that's going to provide extraordinary new capabilities and a lot of very powerful analytics that will benefit from the best efforts of some of the smartest minds in conservation, metrics and analytics and movement ecology, but make it very easy for people that don't have that background to also access these tools. So even if you don't happen to have a dedicated PhD data analyst on your protected area team, you can still run very advanced analytics on all of the data that you have and benefit from these efforts. So we have a session that's going to be introducing that. I also want to recognize Jake Wall. That's you back there, right, Jake? Okay. So Jake is one of the inventors, founders of EarthRanger also. Jake is the creator of the Ecoscope project, and Jake is now also officially joining the EarthRanger team part-time as our director of data and analytics. So we're really, really excited about that as well. Please do go, if you haven't already, and download the conference app. The conference app will have the most up-to-date information about any schedule changes, of which there's already 2, as well as information about who all is here and who's presenting. So please do make good use of that. Waiting while I see phones go down. All right. And the general breakout of the conference is that we will start and end each day with a keynote presentation. And I'll introduce our keynote speakers in a moment. We have lots of tea and lunch breaks in there in accordance with our philosophy of this really being about people meeting and spending time together. And then each morning and afternoon we'll have 2 groups of breakout sessions. So look in the app, look on the website for the schedule of those. Both tomorrow and Saturday we'll also start the day by announcing and awarding the Conservation Tech Awards. So this is the 3rd year that we've done this. This is an award that we have created to celebrate conservation technology. It's not about EarthRanger. There's one award that is given to an organization that has demonstrated exceptional adoption and use of conservation technology. And there's one award that is granted to an organization that has created exceptional conservation technology. We received a lot of awards, and I'll also put up pictures and thank our judging committee tomorrow. But this was by far the tightest competition that we've had for who won them. So we had a lot of really great applications, but I'm excited to announce those awards over the next 2 days. I'm not going to give it away now, sorry. And last but certainly not least, we have an incredible lineup of keynote speakers for you for the next few days. We sincerely appreciate all of them joining us today at the conference. This afternoon, we'll hear from Bennett Kahuri from Namibia's National Parks Department, Director of Wildlife and National Parks. Tomorrow morning, we'll have Jean Labouchaine, the Director of Conservation Development for African Parks. And tomorrow afternoon, Nedi Malimo, the Senior Ranger Support Manager for Game Rangers International in Kafue National Park. And then Saturday morning, we will have Monica Medina, the CEO of WCS. So I really appreciate all of them joining us. But right now, it's my honor to turn the stage over to this morning's keynote speaker, Antony Alexander, who is a Senior Project Manager at Peace Parks Foundation, who has been really instrumental in driving conservation efforts for peace parks in support of ANAC in Mozambique. Alexander oversees operations and development support as part of the organization's work in Lubombo and Great Limpopo, Transfrontier conservation resource areas. So please join me in welcoming Antony to the stage.
Morning, everybody. And thanks very much, firstly, to EarthRanger and also Conservation International, who we've been partnering with in the Mozambique landscape. It's really made a fundamental difference already, and we'll elaborate a little bit more about it. But before I start, Jordan's asked me just to ask the guys at the back to scoot in, if you can. There's a couple of chairs. There's even a warm one over here you guys can use. So Right, so my name's Antony. As mentioned, I look after operations for Peace Parks Foundation in the Mozambique landscape, but specifically focused around the Great Limpopo and the Lubombo Transfrontier Conservation Area. Most of you will know where it is, but for those who don't, it's in southern Mozambique, bordering Swaziland, bordering Zimbabwe, and bordering South Africa, of course. But the focus of today is really I'd like to talk about the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Conservation Area. And if I go back to the title, when Bruce asked me to chat, the title he said was Transforming Conservation Together. And I immediately thought of Transfrontier Conservation, and it's a fantastic title. And I'd like to just highlight why Transfrontier Conservation. It's not like the normal conservation that we very much, most of us are used to. You're protecting a park. It's under your authority, under your control largely. But when you're talking about transfrontier areas, you're talking about it being out of your authority in other people's area, whether it's community areas or government areas. And the only way you can tackle that is through doing things together, doing things in partnership. And you've got to transform things. You've got to transform mindsets from certain other land use types towards the value of conservation. And you're doing it at big scale when you're talking about Transfrontier. So Transforming Conservation Together, I thought was a fantastic title. As mentioned, I'd like to focus on the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Conservation Area. As you probably know, Peace Parks started out facilitating the creation of Transfrontier conservation areas. And then we came to realize, well, that's done. The governments have done their job. In the case of the Great Limpopo, they set up a treaty. The treaty is an agreement between the various countries, and there already you've got your together message. The treaty sets out how you will approach this, sets out principles, etc. And it's quite amazing how often when it comes back to the treaty, you want to motivate for a cross-border patrol or a cross-border tourism product or an approach towards joint management of elephants. That treaty comes in so many times. You use that treaty to go to ministers to motivate and to explain. It's already been signed at a higher level. So already your together message comes across very clearly at a high government level. But we've been busy at the landscape for 20 years, starting off in Limpopo, but only more recently moved towards Zanav and Benin landscape. But it's a massive area, so how do you tackle it? It's one bite at a time. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so the first bites we're taking is from the parks themselves. We realize the Transfrontier area is very big, very complex. So start sorting out your core, get control of your core, get your core developed, get your wildlife populations increasing, protected, get your communities around the park supportive and getting benefit from it before we move into the Transfrontier landscape. So I'd like to talk a bit about that evolution today of how you're going from the core to the Transfrontier protection and approach, and the complexities thereof, and the essential fact that you've got to go do it in a transformed manner, in a collaborative together manner. Everybody knows this, but I think it's worth saying. So how do we approach protected area management in core conservation areas? In the case of Mozambique, we do that in a partnership with the government. These are national protected areas. They are national parks, so the authority of the government, the park warden is the authority there. So you do that through a co-management agreement. It sets out principles and approaches. You create a steering committee, so you make decisions together, you make strategic decisions together, and once again the word together comes in. Then you set out obviously your management, your infrastructure, your community programs, your protection, where EarthRanger comes in primarily for us, and only then do you start bringing in your wildlife, and many years later hopefully you'll get into tourism. And if I can just plug, you'll see in the top right-hand corner is a picture of a lodge and Maputo National Park landscape. It really is just a phenomenally beautiful place. It's located in southern Mozambique, 1 hour from Cozy Bay border, 2 hours from Rosana Garcia, Komati Port border. It's got bush and beach, whales, turtles, elephants. We've just built lodges there, and for those in South Africa, it's just a fantastic destination. Lodges on the beach, camping on the beach, and fantastic scenery. So if you want to book a holiday, please book there next and have a look at it on the website. But that's a typical approach, and tourism is often many years down the landscape, and Maputo National Park has done so well that we're there already. And I think we've done a pretty good job. As I said, Maputo National Park is already at a tourism stage. And then Zanav National Park, we've only been going there for 7 to 8 years now. We reintroduced, I think it's about 35 rhinos so far, or 37 rhinos so far, another 30 hopefully next year. And then the handsome fella in the top right-hand corner I'll talk about just now. But we've had lion arrive through the Transfrontier landscape, and that lion probably walked 250 kilometers from Gonera Zoo to get to Zanav. Which I think is a fantastic achievement for that lion, but it's fantastic for the park now. That's the first Big Five national park in Mozambique since independence in 1975. But more about Transfrontier landscape. When we think about conservation areas, we think about fenced, protected, and control. There's no fences here. There's a couple of lines in the sand. There's a couple of cut lines that we've got, but there are no fences there, and we're talking massive areas. You look at the size of Kruger National Park. The Transfrontier area is probably, I think, 5 times the size of Kruger National Park. No fences there, a lot of open spaces. And the EarthRanger image on the right is just a snapshot I took last week, actually, just to show what a typical landscape looks like there. You'll see the elephants don't respect borders, they don't understand the borders, and they'll move where they feel safe and they feel comfortable. Very interestingly, you'll see on the bottom to the south, they like that spot for some reason, probably a lot of Mopani and water there, and in the northeastern corner, there's the Shangana River there, which they also like, so we're always finding elephant around there. And then you'll see a little track of an elephant moving between Benin and Limpopo. And if you look even closer, you'll see how the tracks spread a bit further apart between the two parks. The gap between the two parks is about 25 kilometers. So it's quite interesting. You'll see how the elephant's quite happy and comfortable in Benin, quite happy and comfortable in Limpopo, but when he needs to move between the two, he ups the pace and takes a bit of a sprint across. And right in the middle, you'll see maybe you can't see so clearly, there's a railway line and a road. And you can actually see, if you look closely, that he hangs around there for a couple of hours before he decides he wants to cross this human barrier. So this colouring of elephant in such a big landscape has been fascinating to watch and observe. And to start understanding the landscape, and also to start teaching us where connectivity corridors could and should be placed. But I think most important message is TFCA landscape is massive. There's not a lot of development there, and there's no fences at all. I think the other aspects is that we know animals avoid humans. We're talking incredibly long time frames of development. But the most difficult and challenging part is a transfrontier landscape is not within your authority. In the park, you've got a park warden, you've got a national conservation authority with the same vision and same goals as yourself. Outside of a park, even though it's got a higher conservation status because of its recognition as a transfrontier conservation area, it really sits under the authority of the province, of the district, of communities. And so you've got very little and limited mandate on what you can and can't do. And if you want to do something, you've got to go through an extremely long process of consultation, talking, persuading, to get where you want. And you can't take the lead. You've got to be prodding and pushing and guiding and facilitating, most importantly. Just like the creation of a transfrontier conservation politically, you've got to now go do it on the ground to actually try and make it happen. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges to understand, just how long and complex that process is. And once again, the message of together. You can only do it together. Collaboration with the communities, collaboration with the government in particular, and obviously you've got some private sector and businesses and other NGOs in the landscape. Then there's also multiple enforcement agencies. I'm sure it's like that in other parts of the continent and the world. But you've got the conservation police, you've got the military, you've got the police, you've got the border police, you've got specialized units called AQUA that focus on crime around deforestation. You've got CERNIC, which is investigation units. So you've got so many different enforcement agents that your authority is within a park. So to get any kind of action done outside, again, you've got to go through this persuasion process to get them to go and do what you'd like them to do. One of the tools used is very well known, and Kruger started it up, and it's now being more and more rolled out in Mozambique, is APCOC, which is an operational anti-poaching command and control. And the model there is that you bring a representative from each of those units together, put them in the control room so you can jointly make decisions and jointly have the same vision and the same approach at the same time. So we're trying to roll that out, and there's already one focused on the rhino poaching on the Mozambique side, in southern Mozambique, that has been extremely effective. And we're rolling that out also now in Zanav, where we've relocated the rhino, even though they're extremely well protected and have a good track record of no incidents the last 2 years. It is something that we need to evolve in, because there's other crimes such as there's a lot of illegal logging in that landscape, and there you need collaboration, because illegal logging will turn into poaching one day and will turn into organized crime one day. So you've got to tackle those kind of aspects at the start and at the head. So the big message, very complex, a lot of partners, a lot of people you need to collaborate with, and the only way is you can tackle that is together and create structures. So where are we to create this vision and create the vision, the reality of connecting the landscape, not just having your core conservation areas, but having the areas work together and function together as envisaged with the treaty of the Transfrontier Conservation Area. Obviously, we've got a lot of GIS data. We've gone to the cadastral office and got the land use titles, understanding who owns what land, what the land designation is, what will be fenced, what won't be fenced, what's got a complementary function, such as some wildlife conservation areas. Then obviously a lot of data. But to me, the most important thing is people, planes, and vehicles. It's unbelievable how much you pick up. You almost get a sixth sense and understanding of the landscape. The more times you drive through the landscape, the more times you fly over the landscape, want to go look at something. The map is one thing, but to go and fly over it and understand it, not so much see it change, but just to understand how everything fits together is just fascinating. And you start creating such a better understanding of the landscape. But you're obviously driven a lot by wildlife. Where do those elephants go? Why do they go there? Where are the lions moving from? Why, etc. But we know that animals avoid people mainly. So this started very much in 2017. Chris and Leah Everett did this study. They did some transects across the GLTFCA and produced some flow models, connectivity flow models. The middle two is theoretical models for lion at the top and elephant at the bottom. And obviously the most notable aspect is how they avoid people, because generally that is where people aren't and where your prey is and where your water is for the lion and elephant respectively. And then they created this connectivity model, which is in the top right. That one in particular is done before we started developing Zanav National Park. And this is all theory. But the fantastic thing is we've already seen that it actually is very, very accurate. In the case of the handsome fella in the top right-hand corner again that arrived in Zanav on the top right, we know from human-wildlife conflict events how it moves. And we've seen a lot of this movement happen repeatedly every year. They'll move east from Gonorrhea, they'll hit human contact. You'll have to respond to cattle being eaten by lion, and then they either move south or then south and then east. So we've had, I think it's five lion now arrive in Zanav. That flow model will look quite different now because of the presence of more wildlife in Zanav. But it's a great example how the research and the years on the ground spent by Chris and Leah and the theoretical model has actually turned into reality by what we've seen on the ground. The other aspect I mentioned is around collaring, and this was initiated by Elephants Alive, initially some 5 years ago, collaring a lot of elephants in the landscape, and that's provided some fantastic data and fantastic understanding. Since then, we've collared quite a lot more elephants. We initially started out, Elephants Alive initially started out in the Kruger and the Limpopo landscape, and now we've been focusing on collaring elephant in Benin because we realized we need to get a much better picture of elephant in the Benin landscape. Anyway, it's fascinating. Animals don't recognize lines in the sand or cut lines. They don't recognize any of that. So they'll always tend to come back to the conservation areas as a safe haven. The pink one is an elephant called Goose. And you can see Goose took a beach holiday in the bottom right there, and he doesn't really respect the borders, but he's also the same elephant that I showed earlier, the cross between Limpopo and Benin. So just these collars, and you can see just the concentration of elephants and what corridor they're moving between the two parks. These, as I say, these are about five bull elephants. And then trying to put it all together. This is not scientific, but I think it's pictorial and it's got its own function. We certainly need to do a lot more research and a lot more factual work, but I think this is a picture paints 1,000 words. In this case, it's a bit of an overlap, the purple being sort of biodiversity value, a study from almost a decade ago that is still very relevant. The red and blue lines, some elephant movement. The flow model from Chris and Leah, and then the green and the red is human impact. And you can already almost just by overlaying all that very clearly see your potential corridors and your potential linkages there. Obviously, that now goes with a bit of I mentioned earlier, having flow in the area so much, and you start to get to understand the villages, and you can see corridor number 3, it's got a big hole in the middle. That's Zinyan. Zinyan's got a borehole that's, I think, 350 meters deep, believe it or not, where they've got good water. Because this landscape, there's no water because of the history of how Benin Pan was created. So you've got a lot of saline water there, but 350 meters, they found good water. So Zinyan in that corridor 3 is going to be, they're just putting electricity as well, so that's going to become a massive development area in the region. So that's why it needs to go around, or will likely go around there. But again, this is conceptual. We need to put more time on the ground and have a better understanding of each one in particular. But it gives a good picture and good understanding of the landscape and the vision of where one wants to go. Once again, a picture counts 1,000 words. You can't explain it, but you can show it so much easier. So we've got all this information and all this theory. How do we go and make it happen? Is the key part now. And I quite like this model. It's not something we're necessarily adapting, but it's something we've picked up, and I think it's highly relevant, especially in this landscape. We're still very much in the element 1, 2, and 3 in the Great Limpopo landscape, but I like the words partnership, shared. Again, coming back to the topic of the conservation of this conference, transforming conservation together, talking about shared, talking about partnerships, creating that structure, steering committees or whatever that you can start making decisions on and collaborating and discussing, talking about now creating the joint understanding, so sharing information, explaining things, get people to understand first before they go and make decisions, creating that vision, get people to understand that vision again before you go and make decisions and before you start implementing. So unfortunately, well, the reality is you've got to go through these hoops and these steps before you just go jump on the ground and do things. So where are we at the moment? We've had some personnel on the TFCA landscape for a couple of years now, just meeting with districts, meeting with communities, getting to sensitize them to the whole vision. We've had provincial land use planning completed about 2 years ago, and we've now brought that down into district land use planning. We're focusing on the corridor between Benin and Zanav, between Benin and Limpopo National Park, because we realize that's the most time-critical corridor connectivity area because of the high presence of communities on the Limpopo River. So our first focus is that corridor, and so we're looking at district land use planning around that area. We've also created a steering committee amongst the district peace parks and the National Administration Authority. We need to extend it, we will extend it, but the government will only bring in other partners once those partners have got skin in the game. So they're saying, well, you're not going to come and advise us, you must come and implement, you must come and support if you want to be part of the decision-making process. So there is an intention to expand that, there's an intention to set up a technical committee to advise us, but once again, it is a very long and slow process to go and encourage people, to encourage the authorities to go in this way. I think the key point that what we need to, the other thing is RED+. We've completed a RED+ analysis of that whole TFCA landscape, and we're really hoping and that by end of the year or early next year, we'll have a confirmed investor there. And then that RED+ will synergize with the corridor connectivity approach so that you focus your RED+ protection in and around the corridors. And of course, the nice thing in that landscape, it's very, very dry, very low economic push. So the only real true value is through RED+, where communities can get money out for protecting the land and conservation can get benefit out from that land being protected. So it really is a fantastic synergy between the two programs. But where we need to go is encouraging the government to create a focal point, somebody within the government that can take the lead, because this needs to be led by the government. It cannot be led externally. We'll facilitate and we'll support. Expand that steering committee structure, expand or formalize the existing advisory structure, and then just go through a lot of consultative processes. We've got funding for workshops and the like, just to go through that consultative process to create that joint understanding, that vision before you go and implement. And then, of course, you need funding for personnel on the ground as well. And what would a typical, so what would a typical approach be? As mentioned, Corridor 1 is the most important focus area for us. What could a typical model be? Ideally, you'd want it as a national park. That's not possible. So you could, at the highest protection status, you could make it a reserve. You could make it as a community conservancy. You could partner with private sector that takes up land and drives it from that side, but being in a collaborative or complementary land use. It need not necessarily be contiguous at all. It could even just be an island, and many corridors have just been islands. The gaps between the two is 25 kilometers. You create an island in the middle, put water there, put protection there, and do the same on the Benin side as well. So you're hopping from one island, from Limpopo Island to the Corridor Island to Benin Island, but encouraging it by protection and encouraging it by water. But these are conceptual, and these kind of things need to come out through analyzing each of the different models that you can potentially implement. Obviously, it needs to come with other complementary measures. On the top left is a elephant fence. Many of you have probably seen it. I think it was first trialed in Tanzania. We're now implementing it in Maputo National Park. It's incredibly effective. What we found, obviously, as many of you know, a fence with your poles, the elephants use their tusks to just snap the wire or to push down the straining poles. Very clever. They learn very quickly and they transfer their knowledge very quickly. So we haven't got very good fence line integrity because the elephants are too damn clever. So this line is just a tentacle. It's just a piece of wire sticking out and dangling there. So you can't move it because he pushes it, it bounces back. So you put enough of those tentacles along, and there's no ways that we can work out, and hopefully elephants can work out, that they can now transgress that fence line. So, and it's also much lower fence line as well. So that's the fence line that we're adopting in certain of our conservation areas, and starting off with Maputo National Park, where there's a very good elephant population. So fence lines in the right place, whether it's a fence line around a community agriculture field or a fence line channeling wildlife in a certain area. You can't see on the map, but the reason that corridor is so effective as a channel is that there's only fence on the eastern side of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park is in Limpopo, and it's on that southern part where you see the line writing Limpopo National Park, and that fence has channeled all the elephants into that direction, and that's one of the reasons we believe why that corridor has been effective. So fences make good neighbors at the right time, so protecting a conservation, protecting an agriculture field, or channeling towards a corridor. Those are herding for health bomas, and believe it or not, that's just canvas, 2 meters high, and that's effective against the lion. A lion will not jump over it because he doesn't know what's on the other side. He can hear the cattle, he can smell the cattle, but he doesn't know if it's a trap. So lions don't even go over that canvas. And that's very cost-effective, very cheap, very easy to deploy, very easy to move around, very easy to understand. So having a herding for health program around this corridor to attract them away from the area and the cattle that are in the landscape to at least use this herding and the boma and corral method, that if lion do transfer through the landscape, then the cattle are protected. Water is key. It could be water in the middle of the corridor for wildlife. It could be water on the edges of the corridor to attract your livestock away, or attract your livestock to certain key grazing areas. And then agriculture. The biggest barrier is probably the Limpopo River. If you look at the configuration or layout of Limpopo National Park, it's an extremely dry park. The whole of the Limpopo River is got communities on it, so there's a lot of human-wildlife conflict there. So to use irrigation agriculture to encourage community agriculture development in areas outside of the corridor area, and obviously link that in with electrical fences. So there's a lot of potential solutions, and I think those solutions are a good one. That we've firstly got to finish the consultation process before we can get into a lot of these implementation methods. But there's still a lot of work going on the go. You want to start with your community work first, build that trust, build that understanding even before you start looking at conservation measures on the ground. So just to recap, transforming conservation together. Transfrontier landscapes are incredibly big, incredibly complex, need different solutions and different approaches to pure conservation areas. Multiple stakeholders, multiple different drivers. And the only way to tackle that is you have to transform what's there, and you have to do it together. So hopefully that kind of background on transfrontier development really talks very nicely to the topic of the conference. And that's it, and thanks very much for your time, and thanks very much to EarthRanger and Conservation International, and yeah, thank you.
Thanks so much. So a couple of years ago, when Peace Parks and their partners were moving the first rhino from South Africa into Mozambique to reintroduce them for the first time, Bruce and I happened to be in Maputo, and Antony and his team were kind enough to invite us to go witness when the rhinos were let out of the cargo containers into what was a temporary stop on their way to Zanav in Maputo National Park. And watching the rhinos take their first steps out of those into the grasslands and into Mozambique for the first time in decades was really one of the most moving and magical moments of my life. So we are so proud to be able to support Peace Parks in any way we can, and really thank you for all your work. So with that, I will turn everyone loose into the first day of the user conference sessions. Please do have a fantastic time and learn everything you can from one another. A couple of quick logistics. If you haven't yet picked up a badge, please do so. They are waiting for you at the reception and information desk at the entrance to the hotel. I do want to say that we've packed a lot into this conference and the sessions, and we also wanted to keep the breaks as long as we could so that people had time to talk to one another. So please do try to arrive on time for the session so that we can get those started on schedule. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner will be served across the 4 restaurants on the property, which I think are all kind of on a line of the back of the property, but you will find them there. And if you have a pre-requested meal for specific dietary requirements, you'll find that at specifically the Brasserie restaurant. So thank you all very much, and we'll see you all again this afternoon.